So an 8 o'clock that she's trying to join in. Then one of the speaker is Mr. Joel,
Yes.
but he's still trying to connect. I don't
Looks
know
like
if
there's
you
a
can see if
network
you
issue,
chat
right?
him up to. Yes.
Okay. How do I chat him up? I don't have his details.
I'll message him on WhatsApp. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, good to see you. My name is Adetunji. You can call me Tunji.
Pleasure. Pleasure. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Great.
Since you were having some network issues, try to connect. Okay. Good to see you. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. So you just give us some few minutes so that we can admit other people.
Sure.
Is that fine by you? Okay. I was wondering, so your name is Mafalda Cruz. Is it Gomez or Gomes?
Yeah, Mafalda Cruz Gomes. Yeah.
Gomes. Okay. I want to be sure that I get it correctly. Okay. All right.
And your name is Sunji?
Yes, Sunji.
Sunji. Okay.
Yes. That's the short form for Adetunji.
Okay. You're from Nigeria?
Yes. From Nigeria. I'm based in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me know when it's starting. I'll just take off the camera for a minute. Is that okay? But I'll be here.
That's okay. So we'll let you know when you're starting.
Okay, great.
Okay. We have Mr. Kunle Lawal here. He's also trying to connect. Hi, Mr. Kunle Lawal. Mr. Kunle Lawal, are you there? We're almost ready, so we're just waiting for Mr. Joel to connect. He's been having some network issues. Just 1 minute. Mr. Joel's audio is having some issues. Welcome everybody. So we have quite a number of people joining now. Mr. Kunle Lawal, if you can unmute, please, we would like to welcome you into the meeting. Area Foundation, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting in a jiffy. Finally,
thank you
Mr.
so
Daniel
much.
All right. Mr. Daniel is here. Mukhtar Abebefe. Thank you very much.
I'm here. I can listen to you.
Okay, awesome. Well, it seems we were having some network challenge at some point. So it's good to have you. Okay. So I need to unmute. Leslie, can you please unmute Mr. Kunle Lawal? It seems he cannot unmute himself. Leslie, are you there? We'll unmute you very soon. You should get a notification to unmute now. All right. So 2:05 p.m. I think we can conveniently start. Okay. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're dialing in from. My name is Adetunji Adeniran, and I'm standing in for Scott Warren. I'm sure you will see Scott Warren as the moderator on the flyer that was sent to you. So Scott is unavoidably absent due to time difference. So I'm taking up the challenge to moderate this session. I look forward to having a very good session with you. So I'm from Nigeria, and I'm sitting in Nigeria. And I'm a member of Democracy Moves. And Democracy Moves is a partner of this conversation. So the conversation is global politics affairs, the way forward on democratic elections in Nigeria. So before we start anything up, I would like to have the United Nations anthem, and then we'll go ahead with the opening remarks. Can we have the anthem, please? Can we hear at all? Looks like I can't hear anything from my end.
We can hear, so yeah, we've been guided that to wait until the anthem is played.
Okay.
I can hear someone on the computer, but I don't hear speaking. Excuse me, sir, for interrupting. Could you look in the chat? It says that you are restricting the person from unmuting their microphone. Could you please look to see if that's the case? Thank you, sir. You have to make the person co-host.
Yes, I think I can see. So we have to, yeah, so Lillian is working on that. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Okay. So welcome back. So like I said, the agenda goes thus. We'll have the UN anthem, which we just observed. And then we have the opening remarks, which is going to be talking about why we're here. And then we'll talk about democracy moves, what we're doing. We have the citation of the panelists, and then the panelists will give their speech. Each of the panel already has a topic that they'll be speaking on. After that, we'll have question and answers, and then we'll have general discussions. Okay, so why are we here? So this is Global Politics Dialogue, and it's in partnership with Democracy Moves. Democracy Move is a coalition of thinkers and doers to address global issues through policy recommendations. We're a group of 70 member countries right now, counting, and we have more than 300 people in the membership. With democracy threatened worldwide, we come together to energize and enable young voices to change the conversation. So at Democracy Moves, we believe a better world is possible. We believe more just and participatory democracies are possible. We believe that young people have the power to create change in their communities and countries. And if we look at it, if you look at Africa as a whole, you look at West Africa, for example, in particular, we've been seeing a lot of news about military coups and then democracy not working in some countries. Right now. So this is a timely conversation. It's a timely conversation, and it's usually, it's really the right time to have that conversation about democracy and global politics, regional politics as a whole. So we'll be going into the panel discussion where we have all our panelists. So the first to go will be Ms. Mafada Cruz-Gomes. I'm going to be reading a citation, and followed by Mr. Joel. And after that, we will have Mr. Konde Lawal. So Mafada Cruz-Gomes is a senior consultant. Sorry. Someone is talking. Okay. Mafada Cruz Gomes is a senior consultant with vast experience in engaging conflict and disaster settings. Through her participation in over 30 democratic processes around the world, which has spanned a period of 18 years, Mafada Cruz Gomes has been able to thrive in multicultural environments and build partnerships with relevant stakeholders and organizations actively involved in democratic processes. Mafada's resume includes, but not limited to, serving as a UN rostered electoral officer for a period of 6 years, prior to which she worked as an electoral expert to the United Nations Administration Mission in Iraq. Mafada is a well-grounded electoral expert and a trainer on election and election methodologies, who is keen on helping developing economies attain the highest level of democratic and electoral conduct. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me to welcome our first speaker and panelist for this session. Mafada, welcome.
Hello, thank you very much. Good afternoon. That was a very kind and generous presentation. I hope I'm up to the task. Maybe I can share experiences, and considering the importance of the elections for the democratic processes in Africa. As you well presented, I've been working East-West Central Africa for many years, and there are many particularities in the electoral processes, many challenges, and many considerations that should be taken into account, not only looking at an international perspective, but also, and most importantly, to look at the national perspective, how the laws, how it is implemented, how the guidelines are being followed, how the procedures are being conducted, how the voting is taking place. So there's a very big scope of an important aspects of the process, and even on technical aspects. And all this contributes for better improvement in the democracy of the countries, in the development of the countries, and most importantly, when elections are taking place, that elections are taking place in a peaceful manner. There is always a rising tension and a lot of expectations. The role of the political parties is crucial, how the political parties approach the populations, and it's a process in itself, how the voters vote, what is the gender quota, if there are minorities, are they included in the process, is this an inclusive process, how the election materials and design and printing are done, how the election system is designed, candidates nomination and registration, and the primaries is crucial. Registration is always a very big landmark in the process, and it is a source of a lot of tension also, how registration is taking place, how the delimitations and the boundaries are taking place, and how in the proportion according to the methodologies and according to the process in the country, what impact does this have in the results, how is this being handled within the national administration and also the national election commissions. So I think these are crucial parts of the process. And there are also, now with taking into account the COVID situation, this is also a very big challenge, and how the measures and implementations are taking place. During this last year with the COVID and the application, I participated in Zambia process, which was very interesting, and to see how in practice in Africa we're talking about. So I've been in other processes, of course, and how actually measures are taking place, and to what extent this is inclusive also to campaign, training, civic voter education. And so it is very, very, very important. And I will talk in general terms, not to pinpoint a particular country in Africa, but it is very important that reforms take place. It is crucial that reforms take place. It is crucial that civic voter education is handled and tackled in a lot of countries, especially if you consider that the levels of analphabetism in some countries is high. Civic voter education is crucial, especially when there are general elections, a lot of ballot papers, a lot of voting to take place, and especially in rural areas where there's hardly any information, or still the source nowadays is the radio, and in some areas not even, and every vote counts. So every vote is important. So of course, civic and voter education is also a landmark. It's very important to be considered and to be tackled in any electoral process and in the reforms, and also for the future and for the improvement of the democracy in the country. Also, how party agents, what is the role of the party agents? How involved are they in the civic and voter education of the processes? How well are they informed in complaints and appeals? Because this is also a crucial part of the process. In some countries, there is not a knowledge of how to handle and to tackle a complaint and an appeal. And this creates a lot of source of tension. Also, for example, how registration takes place, how the voter identification, how they are tackled, how electronic systems and machines in identification of vote and the voting and then the registration, how they are tackled. So there is a lot of considerations, and election commissions hold a crucial and a very, very big challenge. And they have a lot of pressure also when it comes closer to the election to embrace the timelines and also the expectations, the governments and the pressure of the parties and of the oppositions. So all this has to be taken into account, and in order to betterment and to improve the procedures, there should always be a very strong civic voter education process. This should be in charge also of national entities, National Election Commission, how registration takes place, how it is tackled. It is crucial because normally this is the cycle, the electoral cycle process. Normally this is the first stage of the process, also primaries and candidate nomination, how all this is tackled, intra-party arrangements, how is it tackled, to what extent, is there a multi-party system? If it is, if actually the parties and the oppositions can actually have a space in the political arena, and they can actually, exert their function in the process, even if it's small political parties, how constrained with small finance and budgets, but how actually they are engaged in the process, because this is all part of the democratic process. So this is very, there's a very big panoply of issues that I would like to just, as me being part of the opening of this meeting, that I would like to bring into consideration, because I think these are all parts of the process, and these are absolutely crucial in any electoral process. And
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry that I had to come in. So we're given 5 minutes for each panelist. So I will still be coming back to you during the interactive section. Please don't go yet.
Okay, thank you.
Right? Okay. So we'll be moving to the next speaker and the panelist, Mr. Joel. I hope Mr. Joel is here. Mr. Joel Mwita. Mr. Joel Mwita is the chairman of IEBC Youth Coordinating Committee. The committee is responsible for enhancing youth participation and inclusion in the electoral processes. He also serves as the chief operating officer for Wanavusi Investment Unit Trust Fund, where he leads the fund's operations and strategy execution. He has a bachelor's degree in development studies with IT from Maseno University, accounting from Strathmore University, election management by Bridge and Mediation from Netherlands Institute of International Relations at The Hague. He is the co-founder of Kenya Youth Hub, Universities and College Students Peace Association of Kenya. He worked with the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, IFES, as a lead youth advocate consultant and represents youth on the Interreligious Council of Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Joel Mwita to the panel. Thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear
me. You have the next 5 minutes. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you so much. As I've been introduced by our friend here, and I take the great honor to be part of this kind of a conversation. And it is true that Kenya, we are having our election, general election on 9th of August. And it would be good if I could even share some of the insights that we've been going through in terms of voter registration, how the exercise is done, and also in terms of how we've been doing the things, because it is good that I've been a lead person in terms of youth participation in the electoral processes in our country. So this is a good avenue to share. So some of the interesting things that I would want to share is the young people are no longer interested to participate in electoral processes. And in Kenya, we can see here, we had 2 registration processes which were taking place. The first ECVR1, whereby the commission had targeted to reach 6 million people, but it actually reached 1.5 million. So it actually got a short of around 4.5 million. So in the second phase of registration, the commission wanted to target 4.5 million people. And you see all this kind of the people that are being targeted by the commission are young people. But the commission was only able to reach 1 million people. So it actually was not able to reach more than 3.5 million young people who could actually be participating in this particular election. And during the operations and us going through the field and also interacting with our fellow young people, for an avoidance of doubt, I'm 29 years old, so I'm still in that particular bracket. So when we are going through various places, traversing the counties in the Republic, we found like there are 4 major reasons as to why young people are not participating in these processes. Number one, as for now, we don't have a sitting president who will be defending for his seat. Therefore, we don't have state machinery that are actually being used to rally young people to register and as well participate in this particular election. Number 2 is also about the leaders who are already in place. You know, most of the leaders who were elected in 2017, where we did our general election last, most of them, their age is, they are retired youth, 35 and above. So they don't want young people to come in as registered voters because they don't know when these young people come in, they might actually come in with their preferred candidate. Second, you need to use extra resources to change the mindset of this young voter, because the people who are already in power already have their voting block. They have people who voted for them last. So they don't need to do much more on the people already who had believed in them. But they have to do extra and use extra resources to reach the other people who have not yet been in this particular process. And that is why they kind of don't want young people to participate. The third reason is the elected leaders have been a bigger disappointment to the Republic, because most of the people who were elected were not able to perform adequately, and they have left young people suffer economically, socially, and also politically. As you understand that in our country, there is a lot of young people who are actually unemployed. You can see, according to the last statistics, that only 12% of people who graduate from tertiary institutions are able to get formal jobs. So 80% are unable to find themselves even means to satisfy themselves, and as well as getting formal means whereby these people can get to keep their families. So very many young people are hopeless. They are disgruntled. They don't want, because they are said that this thing is really not helping us. Even the younger elders, the people who participated in the last election and they were participating it for the first time, are actually even discouraging the people who want to participate it for the first time, because they're telling them that what are you going to do? Because there is nothing you're going to change. These people have disappointed us before, they will continue disappointing us, so we don't want to interact with them. Another thing is all
we're getting ready to conclude.
Yes, the issue of young people have the electoral confidence to the electoral body, the body that is managing the election. There's been a perception that this election is being rigged. It is rigged in favor of what the state would want. So young people are saying, why should I waste a lot of my time registering, queuing a long queue during the election period just to get the election rigged? You know, in 2018, I got a chance to observe a Somaliland presidential election, and there I saw the level of trust of individuals in that particular republic to the electoral body is very high. Because when it reached a scenario, when it reached at once, when people are breaking away to go and pray, everyone left to the polling center, they went and prayed, and then they came back. Here, you cannot do it in this republic, whereby everyone leaves the station. So there is a lot of things that need to be done in terms of electoral knowledge and voter education to enable us to boost the confidence of the young people, and also ensuring that young people really participate in this particular election.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Joel. Everything you've said resonates with me because it's similar to what we experience in Nigeria. So before we go into the interactive session where I'm going to be asking questions based on everything you said, I would like to call in the third speaker and the panelist, Mr. Kunle Lawal. So presently, Mr. Kunle Lawal is a very good friend of mine, a good mentor, and someone that I really respect so much for his audacity and boldness in what he's doing. So Mr. Kunle Lawal is an entrepreneur, idea generator, politician, TEDx speaker, and a patriot. He has a keen eye for opportunities based on his experience in politics, working with non-governmental organizations, and the federal government of Nigeria. He's passionate about Nigeria and is what could be termed the tribalized Nigeria. He considers his boundaries to be limitless and is really focused on changing the Nigerian narrative in political participation and with tenacity. He currently serves as the executive director of the Electoral College in Nigeria and country lead of Watch Chat. He was also once the acting national publicity secretary of Kowa Party and the senatorial candidate for the Federal Capital Territory in 2019 general elections. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Kunle Lawal.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be on this Zoom with you, Adetunji Adeniran. And I listened to the other two speakers, Mafalda and Joel, and I would say, you know, the distance between a lot in Africa is not really that much different. So I'll proceed to say this. Most of my comments are going to be given from different angles, and I'll try to streamline them into one narrative. So I've served in political party hierarchy. I've been a candidate, and I now work in the developmental space. Those are three different perspectives to looking at politics in Africa or Nigeria generally. So I'll explain the first one, looking at the way forward with democratic elections. There's something that is most concurrent or most repetitive in all African countries, and that is they only begin thinking about an election 1 year to an election. For me, this is the most critical component that has undermined the youth in politics across the continent. The thought process that you could break into a system that you refuse to be part of, 1 year to you maybe thinking you want to change from what's normal, or you want to even offer yourself for office. That is a serious, serious, serious problem. Because if you look at anything, if you are a doctor now and you want to be a consultant, you're going to work in a teaching hospital for a particular amount of time. If you're a mechanic and you want to become an engineer, you go to school for a particular amount of time. So same with politics. You don't just appear on the Christmas tree and expect everything to fall down. Another key point I think I always try to raise whenever I have the opportunity to talk is that you cannot engage what you do not understand. So half the time, you find young and old candidates running for office and they do not even understand. They want good governance. But now you're running for, let's give example, councillor, and you don't even know the jurisdiction of office of a councillor. You're running for Senate, you do not know the jurisdictions of the office of a senator. Vice versa, vice versa. Sometimes some people get in, meaning we have people in Africa that do not understand the jurisdictions of office. If you do not understand the jurisdictions of office of a particular elective office, how then can you pick a good candidate? Are you going to pick a good candidate because it's my friend, or it comes from the same tribe with me, or is the same religion with me, or he's probably someone my friend says is a good man? Good is not good enough for politics. We've seen that happen in Africa repetitively a lot of times. Good is not good. Everybody's always good. He's a good man. He's never stolen government money. The moment he gets in, he doesn't even understand what governance is about. And then thirdly, I think one of the problems with our democratic elections, of course, because people think their votes don't count. And this is not only in Nigeria, it just happens across the board. If your votes didn't count, and this is always my answer to it, if your votes didn't count, why then would big political parties across Africa strive so much to rig these votes if your votes didn't count? What we don't know is that it is our inaction that makes the vote rigging possible. So it's if you don't go to vote, that they will have the chance to unsettle an election. Now, if all of us went out to vote, of course, nobody will come and try to rig votes because everybody is out there. In Nigeria, for example, since 2015, we had below 50% of the voter population since 2015. That's people with PVCs, that's the registered cards. We've had less than 50% since 2015. And there's a massive dip in 2019, in which 28 million people voted out of an 84 million voter card carrying population. So I don't understand. And so 28 million people made a decision for 84 million voters. I think, which is what, of course, leads back to the work I'm doing at the Electoral College. I think our understanding of politics is really very poor. Our translation of what exactly goes on in politics is also very poor. As long as this exists, there won't be any way moving forward with democratic elections, because democratic elections demand a particular level of understanding, not literacy here, understanding for it to function properly. So as long as we do not understand that we are supposed to be out today and this vote matters, or I should be part of a political party so that I can help select the candidate before he help select the candidate so that the person emerging from my party I know is good enough for the country. If we all do that, then we can have an averagely great candidate across board, which will be good for the country. But we just feel, okay, parties can throw us up anything, and then we just make our decision between the devil and Lucy. How long will we continue to make such parameters? Democracy, if you look at in Africa, is always a case of Mr. President. Now, this is most shocking. This goes across a lot of countries in Africa. Nobody looks at the foundation of democracy, which is local government. We don't even care about it. The Africans are just used to, oh, Museveni did this, this one did this, Buhari did this, President of Egypt did this. But all we think about is president. We do not look at anybody else. And the biggest problem in Africa is actually poor legislation. So across board in Africa, we have people in the National Assembly that are totally not up to par as they should be. But because of our concentration in this election, so for me, what is most key right now for Africa is political literacy. Thank you very much, Adeniji.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that very good delivery. So please, for our members of the audience, if you have questions, you can begin to signify by raising up your hand now, and I'll be selecting you one by one. So please, if you have questions, please let me see your hands up, or you can drop your questions in the chat box if you're having network challenges. But we would like to hear your voice, and you can engage the panelists. So while we're expecting our audience to come with their questions, I have some questions I've written down for our panelists. So my first question for Mafada, it's about, you mentioned some critical things. You first of all talked about, raising the expectations of political parties, across Africa. And you also mentioned voter education. I think everybody mentioned voter education, educating electorates about the importance of voting. And then there's something very important that you mentioned, which is financing and budgeting. This is what, from my little experience with some political parties in Nigeria, financing and budgeting is what most of the political parties lack. Right now, even within some of the parties that I know, most of the parties are not even self-financed, right? So they have finances from maybe heavyweight politicians who have money, and they are able to control which candidates emerge. So how do you think political parties across Africa needs to be self-sustaining through proper financing and budgeting?
Thank you. This is actually a very challenging question. Mr. that just spoke from the Electoral College, he really touched ground on the fact that the focus is on presidential and really not local elections. This is also translated a lot in the fact that when you have general elections and local elections, the focus of the political parties and the financing is at the national level cascade and not at the local level. So there's already a very big gap, and this is a very big issue. And you have candidates running for parliament with smaller, for example, of smaller parties, and not considering now the question of whether they're qualified or not, but the question of the financing, and actually without any financing, not even from support from the party at the national level or different cascade systems. So this is really a very big gap, and it really should be tackled through reforms. But again, it's a system that is not from one day or another, because this is very enshrined in the systems, and it's really the national which holds the financial, mostly the financial capacity. Reform, again, the focus and the importance is to look into the reforms of legislation, to be inclusive in the legislation, that there should be, or there could be, according to each country, of course, in the particularities, economic, political, cultural, but could be envisioned that there should be some sort of financing of political parties and candidates, that there should be a line that to start off, sometimes there is, but sometimes also there's the issue of the delay in the allocation of the financing. So by the time the allocation is given, it's nearly the end of campaign, which is really of no use. So also, if there is a budget allocated for elections, there has to be a body that actually counter-checks this with check and balances on the expenditure, how it is, in order for the transparency of the process. And this, in the majority of the cases, is not really tackled. And this also brings a lot of suspicions. And again, when we talk about, we're all in the same agreement of civic voter education, the people are not aware. And then the rumors start of, the biggest parties or the government party, they're holding the power, and we don't know who is spending what. And there's a lot of suspicion. And of course, this frustrates the use, frustrates the expectation, and also it kind of blocks a little bit the flow of the need to go out and to vote. So also, I think there should be a body within, nationally, within the Election Commission, legislated to check also in relation to how the campaign and then the expenditures are being conducted. And in the majority of cases of the processes that I have attended and worked, observed technically in observation in different areas, there is a vacuum literally in the law. Either it is contemplated in the law, but it's really vague, and it is really not applied. It is really not applied. So for the transparency of the process, and again, this is not from one day and another. and there should absolutely, there should be maturity in the participation of the electoral process. And these are things that should be prepared well before, in advance, an electoral process. The cycles should be respected and should be envisaged and should be considered, and this should be well before implementation, preparation. And even if there is funding, according to the, it contemplated in the legislation for funding for the political parties, there should be a body where it could be transparent, for example, where one could consult how much the expenditure is being done, also with the receipts, with everything, like kind of, open, in this, I've also observed some processes, not in Africa, where this actually was contemplated. So it kind of helps for the transparency of the process and the maturity also of the process. Of course, there are particularities in each process. There are challenges. This last year with the COVID and the pandemic, the complexity faced by the emerging, democracies and resolving, and the competition of the political power through credible and peaceful elections in the countries. There's a lot, and how governments use also the pandemic to strengthen their grip of power and to conduct the elections, and using the public health, campaign, how to mobilize or not, if it's possible, how the administration uses also the possible for some parties, not possible for how all this scope, how it is conducted. So I think this is a real challenge, and I think it's feasible and it is possible. More and more, just as a wrap up, more and more organizations that I have worked with, there's a need, and there's a lot of talk in relation to beyond elections. And there should be a follow-up. It's not just before, during, and it stays kind of just after, really after the process, like complaints and appeal, but there should be ongoing, on technical assistance, promoting the changings, promoting the reforms, of course, with the agreements of the country, obviously, but there should be promotion in this aspect, mature, lessons learned from what didn't really go well in the process, and let's look forward for the next years to come, the next elections, and we have like 4 years or 5 to work on it and improve and make it work, sharpen it up, make it work for the next election. Thank you.
Sorry, exactly. So just the follow-up in 30 seconds. Do you think members of the political parties should make contributions, or maybe like a monthly due or annual dues to be able to raise funds, for intra-party expense? Just in 30 seconds.
If they should, or if I didn't understand your point.
If members of each political party should make contributions in terms of maybe monthly dues or annual dues in terms, just to contribute to the funding of the party.
I understand now.
Apart from the money coming from the government.
Yes, I mean, of course, because a lot of elections, the majority, sometimes it is also contemplated in some cases, contemplated on the law that there should be, there could be contributions as long as you have receipts and you can prove. So it's not that it's not just the weight on the government, obviously, but how to tackle this? There have to be measures, standardized measures. So there are not very big gaps. So there should be really absolutely, but standardized measures, because some parties have the capacity. Some members could actually, especially if we consider and think about the youth probably they don't have the funding in order to be, for monthly contribute, but absolutely, yes, this could also be envisioned. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I have questions on voter education and voter party, but before we go to that conversation, I would like to bring Mr. Kunle Lawal to add to the conversation.
Okay. For me in Nigeria, no political party receives money again from the government. I think that was stopped in 2014, if I'm right. And if it's funding of political parties, because I've been in the hierarchy and what I do with the Electoral College, I work across political parties. So I'm confident that members pay a small stipulated amount. Yes, we also understand that in Nigeria, a lot of people are not yet understand the party-centric way of democracy. So the numbers are low. But if you look at the big 2 parties in Nigeria, they make as much as 5 billion in a campaign year from just sale of nomination forms and expression forms. And over the average year, considering the different dates of elections, they make close to £1 billion. The question that has never been asked, which is why I love what she said, what Mafalda said before, for time, is that they must, of course, learn to be accountable. That's where the problem lies.
Okay, thank you very much. So now that you're here, so I have questions on voter education and also for Mr. Joel. So Mr. Joel talks about voter apathy among the Kenyan youth, the fact that Kenyan youth are no longer participating in politics, and he has mentioned almost about 3 points, which is similar to what we see in Nigeria in terms of the participation of young people. So question for Mr. Joel is, does Kenya have a body similar to what Nigeria has in terms of national orientation agency? I know they have not really been working, but does the Kenyan government have an agency whose job is to educate young people, or do we have NGOs within the country trying to do some of this? So the reason why I'm asking is because it would be good to identify some of these NGOs and bring them into democracy moves, because this is basically what democracy moves is all about. Tackling voter apathy. We've had voter education campaign that we did last year, and we're planning to do more this year. So this is one question for Mr. Joel. The second one, which you can also answer, and also for Mr. Kule, is what someone puts in the chat box. What would an effective voter education look like? Maybe if the word is broken down, we can assess the ability to be effective. So what, if you are going to do voter education to tackle voter apathy, what would be the success criteria? So Mr. Joel can come first. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for these good questions. And I would like to start with the first one. Now, as per now, as I had told you that many organizations, even the organization that would want to do voter education, they do not have the funding. Number two, there is no any other organization or government institution that is mandated to conduct voter education in the country. As you know, this election, in our Kenyan context, it is about the young people, because when you see a register of 22 million voters, more than 12 million are young people. So when you audit this particular, the voter register, you will find more than 60% of the people in that particular register at the age of between 18 to 35. So which means that this election is all about the young people, and there is no youth organization or young organization which are actually very active in terms of the voter education, particularly specializing in this. The last thing that I would want to say is, in terms of even the donor world, there are some of the organizations who have basically been getting this money for voter education. But as you know that the young people are now interested now to be lectured by the old. It has not been very working for the young people in this republic. Peer-to-peer seems to be working very well. And I would want to concur very well with the executive director of the Electoral College of Nigeria, that what is killing politics and governance in our countries in Africa is lack of proper education. People do not have knowledge to engage. And as you can see, even the people who are running to be in various political seats are what we call them socialites. The people who have been singing 2 songs and they are hit and they have been known, they want to go and become member of parliament. The people who have been radio presenters, they have been known, they want to go. And this is the same thing that he was talking about, that even when you want to be done an operation, you want to be done an operation with a doctor who is qualified. But here is a situation whereby someone is coming from the radio to present and he wants to go to the legislate indeed. So there is a very big gap in terms of the institutions which are doing voter education, most of the young people, and the urge and also the funding that comes with this particular education. In terms of doing an effective voter education with the young people are not similar. And in my committee at the IEBC, the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission, we had to clarify young people in different groups. There are young people who are in institutions of higher learning. These are the young people who are in colleges, the university. They don't have the stress of paying rent. The pocket money is being paid by their parents. They have different priorities. There are young people who are in the village in informal settlements whereby they even don't have a job. So there is a particular messaging of people and messaging that we need to put onto them. And also there are young people who have graduated from the universities, they have been employed, they live in leafy and good areas whereby they even don't go to rally. And that is another group of people that we give specialized knowledge. So for young people, you also see what kind of medium will I reach them? You know, in terms of social media, in terms of newspapers, in terms of the forums that we usually create. So all these particular things cannot be done in the same way as the young people in the republic, that you have to segment different young people and also have to segment different ways of reaching to these different people, so that you have an effective approach on how you're going to reach them and how to reach them and how they can get an information. And I would like the moderator, if you can as well link me with the executive director of the Electoral College of Nigeria. This is something that needs to be put in Kenya, so that this electoral knowledge could be a continuous process in our Republic of Kenya, so that people graduate from here when entering the politics, which they are ripe and they are able to do whatever thing that needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joe. So can you please drop your comments and your contacts in the comment section? So email or maybe a WhatsApp number. Then we'll link you directly with Mr. Kole. Mr. Kole, okay, the floor is with you.
So you said what can be done in voter education. So I ran in 2019 for Senate, which is the highest legislative office in Nigeria, in the capital, the FCT. I proposed 49.
Is it me? It looks like your volume is lower this time.
It's high. Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so I participated, I ran for office, and while running for office, I proposed 49 bills. I was fourth in the end at the end of the elections, out of 21. I was less than 40 at the time.
We can't hear the ED, we can't hear him.
Yeah, it looks like your volume.
We can't hear you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's faint. It wasn't like before.
Yeah, it's very low, so we can hear you, but we can't distinguish a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Are you on hands-free or you're using the phone speaker?
I'm not using my hands-free. Hello, can you hear me?
No, you need to put the phone to your mouth and your ear, please. Then we can hear you. Right now, we can barely hear you.
Okay, is this better?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it's better now.
Okay, so I was saying you mentioned voter education. So while running for office, and the reason I'm bringing up the story is so that it builds a direction. I was able to propose 49 bills while running for office. I was fourth out of 21 candidates. But, you know, considering I had done so much, I also understood that the electorate did not understand what it was to run for Senate. So I got up with a few friends who had run for office or people that loved Nigeria, and we came up and started the Electoral College Nigeria, which of course is a non-partisan and non-governmental institution. And in time, we've trained over 7,000 Nigerians. We also understand that our thought process, that is the grassroots, that is not educated about politics, is also wrong. The average person cannot tell you anything about even the tiers of government and etc. and how they operate. So the Electoral College runs a 26, quite a structured module, 26 module course. It's free. Right now we have, we're about to start a class on the 25th, and we have about close to 1,000 students, 700 and something students. And this 26 modules walks you through what the legislative does, what the executive does, how a manifesto should look like. You can't tell a good manifesto just because it looks fine on print. You need to understand whether the person even understands what they're doing. The Electoral College has also taken time to organize the debates and ask relevant questions, not rude, not whatever. You're running for legislative office. What bills are you planning to push forward? What are you planning to do about this? Those are the kind of narratives we're trying to do to put out to improve. The Electoral College has also partnered with a few people in Nollywood, because we also understand that if you want to translate information, you also should be able to translate it in film. So we're helping with Nollywood, and also understanding that these parameters that are being presented are not as they are supposed to be. So we just try to improve Nollywood, that's the movie industry, on trying to get the outcomes, so that what is being done politically in a movie is close to what actually is on ground. We also work within political parties. We also have a few programs in different languages on radio across Nigeria. Of course, you need to understand that the Electoral College functions with no grants, so it's a determined will of people that intend to improve the country. And these are just well-meaning individuals. I would say on the board, less than half are involved in politics. So that's the structure we've used. And then, leveraging on the experience that a lot of us have served within political parties, have run for office, have served within government, we kind of understand the way it's supposed to be. So we try to take people away from the emotional arguments that we think politics is, and then bring it back to, constructive arguments and debates that could actually further and deepen our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Lisa, would you like to come up to ask your question? I see that your questions are very valid, and maybe you can provide more context. So if Lisa is on the call, would you like to?
Hello, sir, and thank you very much for the questions. For the session, and I wanted to be able to give comments, especially on the area that is about the young people. And here I'm coming from the place that even if someone is 100 years right now, there's a time they were a youth. And someone who is a youth right now may be in another either 65 years, they will be 100 and they will stop being a youth. It's the part that I'm really, after especially listening here and also listening to what is going on in Kenya, and remembering that there was like the Arab uprising that happened, is whether we actually now are having a generation of youth or young people who are a bit different from the experiences of, let's say, their parents and their parents and the parents of their parents. These youth have seen maybe their parents going to vote 5 times, and they still see, let's say, for example, the potholes or the hospitals, the same issues. Education systems have an issue. And so I'm wondering whether that is in terms of being able to dissect what is that apathy, because it means for every generation, they have their issue. What is really that apathy, so that it is not just a superficial thing. And the reason I'm also saying this is because the way we have called democracy, and I think here is where it would be good to hear from, Madam Mafalda, and also from Mr. Kunle of the Electoral College, is then the design that we are talking about of the elections or governance in general, and democracy, maybe democracy that is in Africa. Is it really an African model? or it is again, you know, like the way we have borrowed from we have had Africa borrowing from the colonizers or from the West. And so that is what is just not working, because it is very serious when Mr. Joel speaks and even yourself, moderator, Mr. Adetunji, you speak and say that in Nigeria, it is the same case. It is also then probably the same case in another African country. And the Arab uprising, what we saw with it, or even like now in the US, when there was the Black Lives Matter, it is a good thing for any country. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Could I
Thank you so much. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of considerations here. When we talk about, of course, the models should also be shaped, as I said before, is according to the culture of the country and not the international standards. There are international standards that are followed to see, for example, when it comes to projects and funding, that the treaties have been ratified in this sense. When one applies or when one has the vision, technically observation in whichever form to processes, for example, in Africa, one has also to always to bear in mind that is the country in itself. But when we think about history also, when we're talking about, as the colleague said, colonizers, we're talking about 50 years now. So I think it's also time for Africa to empower itself and say, okay, we have a lot of quality. I've met a lot of extremely qualified people, African people from different countries in the diaspora, super valuable. And the problem also nowadays is also economic, the youth, lack of employment, lack of structures, immigration. So I think there should be policies also in the country in order to promote immigration and promote, or at least people that live for better conditions of living in the diaspora, in order to they come back with the knowledge and the know-how and implement and have the will to implement it in their own country and feel the national need that, okay, I want to do something for my country. Because I've met super valuable people from all different African countries that I absolutely validate. And I think it's also time to think, okay, the colonization period is well behind. It's time for Africans, and I think the African continent is really the future. And I really think I'm totally in favor and in empowerment. I do a lot of, for example, me at the micro level, empowerment, whatever I can in order to empower. I believe that is in this sense. I think it is important when one thinks of civic and voter education to think on voter education and the domestic election observation, how it works, implementation of the NGOs, how it is funded, developing the election management bodies, voter education and training plans, legal provisions, for example, for illiterate voters. And this is really, and there should be dispositions in the law. This is crucial. And when we talk about African elections and civic voter education, that there are material that are also in local language and dialects. And this is also absolutely crucial. So this is being practical in terms of hands-on what to do in order to create the change. I'm totally in favor. And this is the reason why I've been working in elections for this, because I still believe, maybe I'm a dreamer, but I still believe that there are possibilities. If there is need to reforms, the reforms should be done in the country, in the legislation, in the constitution. And there's possibilities for change to be done in the law and in the constitution. If there are still, you know, from the past that has been changed, from the colonization period, from whatever, one cannot blame after 60 years on the colonization. I think it's time to look to the future. I think there are a lot of challenges now that the African countries are being confronted with. I totally believe that the future is Africa. And I totally believe that it is possible. And African people in general, from the different countries I have met, they are highly, highly intelligent and qualified. And if needs be, they can make the change. The problem I see sometimes is that there are many presidential systems. It's very centralized, although it's multi-party, but it's one-party domination for years and years and years. And this is the problem. And there should be a change in this, and the change is to be done in the constitution by the people, and also promote the youth. Of course, like Mr. Joel said, if one is talking about youth that is living in a very difficult condition, how to, to engage the youth if they, if they live hunger and poverty and probably in the growth mode, who cares about the election when I need food on my table? So this is the challenge also. This is the challenge, and this is what also governments should be looking into, and promotes social aspects into this. I've worked in process, just to finalize, for example, in Zambia, last year was super interesting to see, because the youth was very much engaged in domestic organization groups, and they were very engaged in civic voter education. Young students starting up, getting motivated into politics, getting motivated, considering that they were doing the change in the country. So it was fantastic to see this, but I think also that there should be brigades. For example, brigades, election from EMBs, brigades to go out into the rural levels to promote education. But this is something that is not done 1 month before the elections. This is something that needs to be done well ahead. So these are my considerations, and I am totally in belief that Africa is one of the future continents of the future. And I still believe that change is possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mafada.
Thank you.
So do we have like a closing comment from Mr. Kunle or Mr. Joel?
Okay. Every time youth in Africa complain about democracy being an idea of the colonization era, not necessarily the system of government in Nigeria. For me, it is the root and bedrock of the voter apathy we have presently in Africa. Democracy can only function if you participate. You can't sit back on the sideline and expect the system to work on its own because you have a president or you have a governor or you have legislators. If you look at developed democracies, that's the exact, it works because everybody is a part of it. You have people in university already aligning to a political party, leaning towards a political party, and telling you this is what they like about it, this is where they want to head, this is what they want to do. In Africa, you have no connection. You have no connection to any of the parties or any of the things, yet you want a change. How is that supposed to happen? If you are not on the negotiation table, if you're not known that, okay, I'm part of this, I can deliver my streets to this party, I organize ward meetings at a particular level. You know, most people asked how I rose to become a national publicity secretary with a seat on National Executive Council before I was 36 in Nigeria. And the answer is simple. I was ready to sit down and start saying, you know what, today is a ward meeting in Kaduna. Are you people fine? I was just a party member. Are you people fine? They're like, we could do with some more money for refreshments, no problem. I'll help you get done. They want to do strategy or something, that's jump into the room. They want to upgrade the constitution of the party. I volunteer myself. It was stressful being a businessman doing that. But what came about later was having a position that people my age didn't think they could ever touch. So this only occurs when you participate, which is key. So is democracy right for Nigeria? Yeah. For Africa, yes. Have we actually practiced democracy as we are supposed to practice it? No. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Joe.
Yeah. Yes, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I have some issues that I would like to go through. It's also a learning that we also learn from our country. That election is a process, is not an event. Most of our countries, including our republic here, that we only know of election on the year of election. And the years before, then we are not even obvious, we don't want even to engage. And it is an issue whereby you also even get election and electoral laws being changed on a year of election. On our case, laws which are being changed 6 months to election, which is a fun thing. Number two, it is also the issue of continuous voter education and youth engagement. throughout the process, and there is a need for the political parties leadership. On our case, we call it ORPP, the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, working with the EMB, the Electoral Management Body, to ensure that young people see the need of joining the political parties, and the political parties are put accountable to deliver whatever thing that they should be delivering, and also nurture leaders who will be taking the countries ahead. Lastly, it could be also important to note that young people are different, and every year people have different problems, different issues to solve. So when you find a situation whereby our sister Anne has talked about, my father started voting in 1992. Up to now, the road leading to our village still has potholes. You know, my elder brother voted for the first time in 2017. He's still unemployed until now. So if only we give or we vote for credible people who will perform and will give young people a reason to get out. And I can assure you, if we continue with this kind of having voter apathy, we let in poor leadership, then next elections we will have no one who will be bothering himself to go and register as a voter or even participate in the election itself. So it is a collective responsibility, and elections should be people-centric to ensure that everything that is being done is very transparent, and the people who are chosen are people who can deliver, so that give hope and tranquility to our nation for us to ensure that we have a better country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. In fact, it's been a very engaging discussion with me here, and I'm sure our audience also enjoyed the discussions. We've spent almost about 15 minutes past our time. I would like to thank our speakers, Mr. Mafada, Mr. Joel, and Mr. Kunle for coming to the session. Thank you so much for sparing your time. And so this is where we're going to be saying goodbye, and we'll put an end to the discussion. Please don't let this be the end. In our various groups, our various countries, let's keep talking about why young people need to participate in elections, why young people need to participate in politics and our democratic processes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And I wish you a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful session. Congratulations to all speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.